Arsenal's transfer plan is slowly getting revealed for the summer over time, and one of the big emergencies recently is that the number one striker target is going to be Benjamin Šeško from RB Leipzig for this summer. Sesko is certainly a player that has high potential and could be even better in the Arsenal side, but let's look into why Arsenal are willing to spend the money to get him, and he is their primary target. If you want to find out the answers to these questions, please can you continue to watch the video and like and subscribe for any more daily football content. Benjamin Šeško is a player that has been known for a very long time despite his young age. If anyone has played Football Manager, he was an absolute legend on it for the last few years, and he really broke through at Salzburg, scoring a lot of goals in the Austrian division. Now, he is someone that has been a part of the Red Bull system for a while now. When he was at Salzburg, he went on loan to FC Leverkusen, who was the reserve team for Salzburg, and despite only scoring 5 professional goals in the league for Salzburg, he was signed on a pre-contract deal at the age of 18 to go to Leipzig in 2023. Now, upon joining Leipzig last year, he joined alongside striker Openda, and he didn't get many minutes between the start of the season and was struggling for game time. And although Leipzig predominantly play a system which is 4-2-2-2, playing 2 strikers up front, which you don't see very often, they had a lot of other strikers such as captain Yussuf Poulsen, while also having Timo Werner still there at the start of the season. This meant up until January, he had actually only started 3 league games for the season for Leipzig, and he actually scored 3 goals, but they were all off the bench appearances for the team, scoring twice against Union Berlin in only 15 minutes on his second game for the team. Now, with this mediocre form and not really getting to the team, I don't think teams like Arsenal would be interested, but when he gets to this latter part of the season is really where he excelled, and in his last 12 starts in the Bundesliga, he scored or assisted in every single one, getting 10 goals and 2 assists, getting 1 in each game. And in pretty much all of these games, he started in the 4-2-2-2 alongside Openda, who obviously scored over 20 goals as well in the season, scoring a lot. And playing 2 up front is not necessarily a formation or system you're going to see a lot by teams, because it is very peculiar to Leipzig, and we wouldn't do that, for example. However, he has shown different parts of the season which he can also play by himself. When he was at Salzburg, he predominantly played in a striker situation by himself and ended up scoring a lot of goals, getting 16 and 30 in the league at just the age of 19. Now, that's the stats. So how does he play as a footballer? Well, he is 6'5" for a start, which makes him a very dominant in the air and tall player. He is very physical at winning battles, and because of his height, he often scores a lot of headers as well. However, despite his height, you would be mistaken to thinking he is a clumsy player. He's actually very technically gifted and loves cutting inside and being very good at carrying the ball and dribbling with it. He's almost like a mini Isak, so you can see the similarities between the two. And while being a major threat in the air can be quite obvious for someone that tall, he'd actually be the tallest player in Arsenal's squad. He's also very two-footed, which makes his great technique a lot better. He is very good at cutting inside on the left and right and doesn't really mind which way he has to go out there. He's a player that has had obviously a lot of similarities to someone like Erling Haaland, because they came from the same club, being RB Salzburg, and they are both very tall, dominant players. While he definitely takes little tad bits from Haaland's game, such as being able to run on the last defender and run through to maybe put his side foot over and put it into the back of the net, he is someone that probably likes to use his height a little bit more than Haaland, and is someone that can be a bit of a predatory striker within the box and 6-yard box. And this is where he does most of his work. He doesn't mind coming deep necessarily to carry the ball and work it with the team, but he isn't going to be having shots from far out. Most of his shots are within the penalty box or just outside it, and he doesn't really like to waste opportunity. This season, he's actually scoring above his expected goals, with expected goals being around 9 to 10, and he's got around 13 goals in the league this season. And now, while he's only got a couple of assists, there's a lot of times this season where he's broke down the wings and been able to use his brilliant dribbling skills to get past players, sort of like what Isak does at Newcastle. This dribbling ability and the ability to go out wide despite his height will also help Arsenal, as they want someone who can play in different roles up front. So getting him as a striker that could potentially play a little bit deeper or play on the left could also help the club going forward. And given his age, you can definitely develop him into a different player right now, as he is not guaranteed to be that player throughout his career at just the age of 20. And although he hasn't played in the top 5 league for a long time, his 0.73 non-penalty goals this season is really high, and it's a really good level to show that he is clinical and can take his chances. At the end of the day, he's a natural goal scorer and can definitely help the team. Now, another thing that I really like about him, and I know Arteta will, is that his defensive work is actually really good as well for a striker. In a game, he's making around 1 tackle per game, 1.3 blocks per game, and 1.3 clearances, while winning around 2 aerial duels, which I probably expect to go up at Arsenal. This is a really good level, which shows that he is getting back and doing blocks and winning headers defensively defensively when they need it to, but also that he isn't a selfish player and he is willing to go back and help the team if he feels like it's necessary. And the fact that you're that tall is kind of important to help defensively when you're trying to stop a team trying to score later on. You've got your striker that can also score, being very tall to win headers and defend, and he's clearly got a very good ability to win blocks and clearances. And considering Arsenal strikers and attackers do win a lot of defensive duels and clearances and they really help defensively, having someone that can also do that is very important, and he does a much more defensive work than someone like Isak would have. And with the fact he wins around 52% of his aerials, which is a very good level, he needs to get into more. He only gets into around 3 or 4 a game, but I think at Arsenal you could expect him to get into more, and he'll probably win more and more as he's so tall and will be a dominant factor against a lot of Premier League defenders, as he will be bigger than them. However, he's not brilliant at everything, and specifically he's not really great at passing with the ball and making some good build-up play. In a game he's only getting around 19 passes and he's only really making 13 of them per game. Now this could be down to the fact that Leipzig do play a 2 up front system, and Openda usually is a bit more involved in the build-up, so Sesko can be a bit more forward and kind of just sit there and wait for the ball. However, he's never really been brilliant at passing. He is doing alright on take-ons, he's getting 1 a game, but his progressive carries, his progressive passes aren't there. If someone like Jesus was to play up front for Arsenal, he would have a lot of them. He loves progressing the ball and coming deeper with it. Sesko may not be an option to do that right now, and although he could definitely be an outlet out of the left side because of his 2-footed nature and could definitely progress the ball out there, he isn't going to be someone that is going to progress the ball through midfield, and you might have to develop that into him. But he is 20 years old, so you could easily get this more and more in the game, and the more he plays with players that want the ball and have the ball a lot more often than someone like Leipzig, a bit of a counter-attacking team, then I'm sure he'll get better with the ball eventually. And obviously this kind of leaks into the fact that his assists aren't very good. He gets 0.1 a game and his expected assists are even 0.06, but you would expect with better players and players that want the ball that this will probably go up and he'll probably get more anyway. Now the reason why this to me is a really good, probably even a very smart signing for Arsenal, is the fact that he can do things that you want him to. He's a young striker that can definitely be developed into a player that Arteta can use in different ways, but he has that natural ability to score goals that he's shown throughout his career, and he's willing to sit on the bench and wait for his turn. He waited for his turn for 6 months at Leipzig, got given it, and now he is frying. So it's something that you can have him on the bench and come in and out of the team, and it's not necessarily going to be too much of a demand on him, and he isn't going to want to start every single game because he knows at a top club he is going to be at. I also think he brings something different to the team. He's a very direct striker, can go in behind defenders, which can help us later on in games, and even more importantly, it gives us a plan B option. A bit like what Arsenal used to do with Giroud back in the day. Is when he kind of got shifted out of the team his last few years at the club, he always became a plan B option. We needed a goal, cross the ball and get Giroud on win headers, and Giroud is a brilliant player in the air, but Benjamin Šeško is 6'4", 6'5". He'll be one of the tallest players in our squad, and he has shown that he has scored a lot of headers in his career, and he's even good at progressive runs to win headers indeed. So I really think defensively this could be a great option when you're holding out a lead to get a really tall player on, but also going forward if you need a goal, cross the ball into Benjamin Šeško gives us another option. And for the fact that he is actually very good at hold-up play and he is very quick, can get us in behind and in situations where we can hold on to leads even more, I think overall it would be definitely a good option for Arsenal to get him in. And it is reported that Arsenal have a strong interest in him, and today it's been reported that Mikel Arteta wants him as the priority signing. This is because the board don't really want to spend a lot of money on someone like Isak or Gyökeres, because realistically you've got to look at this in a bit of a wider scale. We could get Isak or Gyökeres in for a lot of money, which would be a massive risk for the club, who we're not completely sure about, but it still would be a good signing I think in way. However, they're not necessarily the biggest problem for the team right now. Arsenal need to sort out their midfield and their defence, probably getting another defensive cover in there and a winger and definitely another midfielder, which we need to spend a lot of money on. Benjamin Šeško has a release clause for around 50 million euros to 60 million. I'm not sure, there's been lots of reports about it, and for that amount of money, 42 mil, 50 million pounds, you can't really say no. That is a really good offer for us, and that gives us enough room and maneuver so we can actually go and spend 80 to 90 mil on a midfielder, which is more important, or a winger or a defender. And in many ways I trust Mikel Arteta's ability to adapt players and train them up to be even better, that I think he can really make Sesko a world-class player in the future, because he definitely has the potential to be there. He is a little bit raw still, but I still think he's a bit more of a short sighted than some of the raw strikers we've seen spend. And given the trajectory in his career, I think it's quite obvious that he will probably go next season for a lot of money to someone anyway. So if we can get him in early, a bit like we did with Fabio Vieira, I'm sure he'll definitely get a lot more game time and play for us a lot more than he did anyway. Overall, I don't see anything bad with the signing. I think quite frankly it could be the the perfect sign for Arsenal this window, and it opens up that little gap between him and making other players. Now, the only other striker I think Arsenal should go in for is Joshua Zirkzee for around the same price. So if you want to see my video about how he'd fit into Arsenal, please go and watch that after this one. Thank you guys for watching. See you in the next one.